It should be sunny today with a high near 75. Tonight we'll see partly cloudy skies and a low of 47. Tomorrow skies should be mostly sunny with a high near 78. Tomorrow night skies should be partly cloudy and the low should be right around 53 degrees. That's weather on America's Best Country, KMEM.
This is the award-winning broadcast of Healthy University, bringing health and vitality to you and your family, brought to you by Scotland County Hospital in Memphis. Now, here's your host, Dr. Randy Tobler.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years and the slow parade of fears without crying. Now I want to understand. I have done all that.
Welcome to the program, 6 after the hour on a beautiful Tuesday morning in the Midwest. It is gorgeous, isn't it, Bud?
It is absolutely fabulous.
It's Healthy You. That's Bud Wilson, and over there is Elisa Kiger producing and offering her all-around cheerfulness that happens every time you're around Elisa.
I have my leaf rake at the ready.
You need it.
I'm just watching the fall.
Yeah.
As soon as they all hit the ground, I'll hang the leaf rake back up, get the mower out, mulch them, and then watch the wind blow them.
Are you going to get up in the gutters, too, and clean leaves out of the gutters?
I have an interesting story about that. How did you know?
I didn't know. Tell me.
No, a couple of years ago, I was doing that very thing, and the wind blew the ladder over, and I was up there, and my wife was downstairs, and I was jumping up and down on the roof and yelling. And
Oh, well, at least you didn't go down with the ladder.
No.
That's good.
Finally, a man driving by took mercy on me and came over and put the ladder back up.
Oh,
and
that's
so
funny.
I went downstairs and, and she said, "Really? I didn't hear a thing."
That's
it was
funny.
a hoot. It was funny.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is, if you're up on the ladder or on the roof and the ladder is there, just have someone there.
Carry your cell
It's
phone.
it's the buddy system. Yeah, it's like scuba diving. You need the buddy system.
Yeah.
You have to be careful if you're up there on the ladder. I know a lot of folks that have fallen and had heel injuries.
Isn't that the truth?
Bad stuff.
And we're
worse. Yeah.
going into deer stand time, so that's doubly important.
Yeah.
Wear your safety equipment, folks, and
Yes.
don't think that because it was sturdy last year that it may still be sturdy this year. Test it out.
That's right.
And the stand may be sturdy last year, but you may not be sturdy this year.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
What do you mean by that?
Too much.
Time and age and
Oh,
Well,
time and age.
Yeah, but doctor,
There's no such thing.
You got to admit, though, deer hunting season opens. They go out there and kill snakes. I mean, they walk 17 acres, and then all of a sudden their shoulder hurts.
And then and I think one of the big hazards, with all due respect, is the deer camp syndrome. Time and age and Mr. Daniels.
Yeah. Too much.
That gets people in trouble.
That's a tailgate syndrome. I think.
Right. Well, good luck to all the hunters. Be careful out there.
Absolutely.
Wear your harness on the way up and on the way down. Mm-hmm. I hunt with a buddy. We do these climbing stands.
Yeah.
And when we're hunting, it takes me forever because I wear the harness on the way up and on the way down. Because, it takes me longer. And then usually on the way down, after I'm tired and it's been long, I forget to move the harness down. I've gone down. I'm like by a noose, and I have to climb back up. It's quite an athletic experience, actually. Never mind if you get the deer.
That's when you look around to see if there was anyone else.
I know. Well, that's right. Hey, today we're going to be talking about bipolar disorder. It seems to be something that, in my experience, is on the increase, as are a lot of the mental health diagnoses over the past decade or two. And we're going to talk with really a world-renowned expert and someone who was on the FDA committee for the medicines that treat psychological and psychiatric problems. And she's interested. She's starting a network of treatment centers for bipolar across the globe.
Awesome.
France and Italy.
Excellent.
And boy, if you're going to be bipolar, what a place to be, huh? It'll be nice to be in Italy.
Well, I'm thinking...
Good wine, good food.
I'm just thinking about the sore
Think
spot.
about that, man. You could go crazy there eating too much, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna ask her about mania. I think people don't really understand what mania is. They think of people going berserk and, sort of screaming, running down the street. And that's not really generally what we're talking about. And we'll talk about bipolar and define it and what it all means. But anyway, so she's an expert, and her name is Dr. Ellen Frank, and we'll talk with her about that. And if you have questions, as always, we invite you to call.
Yeah, just give us a call
Yeah.
and tell us what's on your mind. And if you have any ideas also for future
Yeah.
shows that you'd like to see, be sure and let us know about that too.
There's lots coming up in the next few weeks at Scotland County Hospital. So let's
Yes,
highlight some of those events
there
now.
are, absolutely. We got a free breast cancer screening that's coming up on Friday, October 19th.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be from 1 to 5 at Dr. Celeste Miller Parish. It'll be a free screening and free instructions and information. And although it is free, folks, be sure and give us a call to make your appointment and schedule that at Memphis Medical Services, 660-465-2828.
And that's a physical exam and a risk assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't had one, an encouragement to get a mammogram.
Right. Also, yes, going on at the same time but separately is your encouragement from the radiology department to get your mammography. And there's free gifts for the ladies that do that during the month of October. And we hope that you'll take advantage of that. Come on in. And then we have an open house, and I need to talk about that for just a second. It's going to be October the 30th. It's going to be from 4 to 7 in the afternoon.
3.
3,
I think,
3 to
yes.
7?
Very
Okay. Okay. And there'll be comments by officials from the hospital at 5 o'clock, and that'll be in the conference library room. And there'll be free refreshments, there'll be free tours, and there'll be a free gift for all attendees. So make sure that you save the date for that, because this will be your chance to see all of it intact with nothing blocked off. And you'll be able to see how to get from point A to point B. And
I have a resident from Kirksville with me today, and I gave her the tour of the place.
Oh.
I didn't realize how sprawling and expansive the place is now. I mean, you try to find your way around, even being familiar with it,
yeah.
and it's really grown. So yeah, so you'll learn about the new facilities. You'll learn about the different departments. You'll see the fabulous architecture and the service centers there, all the way from radiology to the surgery center and everything.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun.
And we have another opportunity for the community to come out Thursday. Our employee committee asked me to remind everybody that we have our book fair.
This Thursday.
This Thursday.
Wow.
And it's open to the public. And
Yeah, no, that's like gifts, books, everything you'd need
cookbooks,
just in time for
cards.
Christmas.
That's right. And it
Yeah.
benefits the employee committee, which we pay for lots of things for our picnics and our Christmas party. We give $500 scholarship to one student in any of the 4 school districts that we serve that are pursuing
Yep.
a healthcare degree. And we buy turkeys for the food pantry. At Christmas time, we adopt children. We adopt nursing home patients. So the employee committee does a lot of good in the community because we are a large facility and we have lots of employees. But this Thursday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., that's October the 4th, in the conference library at the hospital. Come out. The public is more than welcome to come out and support our book fair.
Yeah, that's always fun. Although it
Yeah.
gives me anxiety because it makes me realize we're, 10 weeks away from Christmas? Is that
Indeed.
right?
Or something close
I mean,
to that.
close to that, right? The clock is starting. And here in a few weeks, it'll be Halloween, and that really starts the clock.
I'm
So-
a December 24th shopper. True to the tradition of the man
Buddy
cave.
Wilson, I'm going to make you buy something on Thursday. I'm going to make you get your wallet out and buy
Oh,
a
I always
cookbook
buy.
for somebody
Yeah.
or
I
a
do.
journal for
Yeah.
somebody.
They really do have a lot of unique things
they
in
do.
there. And they have some excellent storybooks for the
Toys
kids.
and
It's-
stories,
Yeah,
yes.
just
So you've
awesome.
got enough grandkids that you can do
I
some
know.
shopping on
Yeah.
I
Thursday.
know. I should.
And they
Yeah.
take credit card, check.
Yeah, and you may
cash.
think that you'll just go in and browse, but I guarantee you'll go in and buy, and that's fun. I mean, because the prices
yeah.
are right, and there's
It's a good
unique
cause.
stuff that you really don't generally see just available at the regular book outlets. So it's a lot
And
of fun.
then another thing we've got coming up is a matter of balance is managing concerns about falls for some of us older folks
Mm-hmm.
who have reached the age where we need to step twice in the same spot
Mm-hmm.
to keep from falling over. It's all about balance.
Yep.
And that's going to be Thursday, October 11th, 18th, 25th, and November 1st, 8th, and 15th. Now, what it is a 3-week program, or a 6-week program, I'm sorry. and it's on Thursdays, and it's from 10 in the morning to 11:30 in the morning, and it'll be, I think, probably in the library
believe so.
conference area. It's sponsored by the University of Missouri Extension and Scotland County Hospital.
And I'm going to give a shout out. We just sent out our October e-newsletter this morning.
Yeah, and it's very nice.
All of that
Wow.
information is on our e-newsletter. And so if you want to get this information before it goes on air, before it goes in the newspaper, before the general public sees all of this, give us a shout out at the hospital. Call Buddy or myself. 465-8511, and we will get you signed up for our e-newsletter that comes
Yep.
email.
And remember, you can always call Bud or Lisa or connect to them through the website about ideas for the program. If there's something that you've heard maybe at one of the upcoming parties you're going to be at, the holiday season coming up, some diagnosis, some weird thing you've never heard about, we'll try to fill in the blanks for you. Okay?
Yep.
So let us know. And even if it's something out of the box and unique, hey, that's fun too.
Yeah.
All right, Healthy You every Tuesday on KMEM 100.5. Coming up, we're going to talk about bipolar disorder with a world-renowned expert, and it's really a problem that affects so many folks and can affect families as well. And we're going to talk with her and learn all about it. So stay right there. And if you have a question or comment, please give us a buzz.
Yep, 1-800-748-7875 and 660-465-7225.
Will you make a promise that you'll save the last dance?
So you're trying to get ahead in the old career department, but you got that one tiny hurdle to clear. Maybe you're bucking for that big promotion and just need a Microsoft class. Or maybe you want to take that hobby of yours big time and finally be your own boss. But that QuickBooks manual might as well be written in Chinese. Lucky for you, there's SCC Center for Business. We've got what you want, when you want it. Take a quick class, fill that gap, and get on with it. We're onto something. Southeastern Community College, educating students and filling skills gaps since 1920.
Mid-American Energy is putting the power to use energy more efficiently in our hands, helping with the big things like rebates to make approved energy-efficient appliances more affordable, and helping identify the little things like compact fluorescent bulbs and weather stripping that add up to save some green. Energy efficiency is in our hands with Mid-American Energy. Obsessively, relentlessly at your service.
While other manufacturers are scrambling to adopt SCR technology to meet emission standards, Case IH is in the field, maximizing productivity and setting records for fuel efficiency. We're leading the way with over 10,000 SCR tractors already at work. It's proven efficient power you can find on all our high horsepower equipment, including combines and sprayers. And right now, get great offers when you pre-order 2013 models. To learn more, visit your local Case IH dealer or caseihdeals.com.
U.S. Cellular is giving $1 million to schools to improve the education of students through their Calling All Communities campaign. The campaign invites communities to rally together to vote for their school. Visit your local U.S. Cellular store, pick up a voting code, and enter it online at uscellular.com from now through October 21st. The school with the most votes will win $150,000, and the next 17 schools with the most votes will receive $50,000. Scotland, Schuyler, and Clark County schools are teaming up, and if everyone votes for Scotland County Elementary, those schools will equally divide the money. This message has been brought to you by U.S. Cellular and KMEM Radio. Vote today for your favorite school. Again, vote for Scotland County Elementary, and Scotland, Schuyler, and Clark County schools will split the money.
I feel a shiver run up my spine. I feel the warmth of her hand in mine. Ooh, I hear laughter in the rain, walking hand in hand with the one I love. Ooh, how I love the rainy days and the happy way I feel inside. After a while we run under a tree. I turn to her and she kisses me. There with the beat of the rain on the leaves.
And we're back on Healthy You, 20 after the hour, as we talk about a very common and sometimes disabling problem, bipolar disorder. What does that mean? Does that mean you've hiked to Antarctica and to the Arctic and planted your flag at both poles?
I got all kinds of questions.
Huh?
How do you know if you have it? What are the symptoms?
What does bipolar mean? Does it mean that there's two barber shops in town? One pole has this side, the other pole this side?
I don't know.
For those of you who like the nightclub scene, we're not going to go there. There's lots of different ways to talk about bipolar.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk with a world-renowned expert.
Indeed,
and I mean that. She is... she has more accolades than Carter has little liver pills. And I mean to tell you... No, seriously, she's an expert in mood disorders and their treatment. Dr. Ellen Frank, distinguished professor of psychiatry and professor of psychology at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, director of the Depression and Manic Depression Prevention Program. And on the website that I'm accessing here, Dr. Frank, I'm impressed because it says Pittsburgh Mind Body Center. And I have long been an aficionado of, the relaxation response and Dr. Benson and his work up at Harvard and his Mind Body Center. And so when I see that, especially caring for women as I have as in my career, there's so much of a connection there. But welcome to the program, and thanks for taking some time to speak with us.
Well, my pleasure.
So we were talking before you came on last segment that you are in the midst of getting together sort of a network of bipolar disorder centers of excellence, if you will, across the world, France, and you've been in Italy as well, University of Pisa. You just completed a study with researchers there. This is it seems like I've heard in my own practice, I've been in practice 20 some odd years and after residency, and it seems like it's a diagnosis that more of my patients are carrying now than they did 15 years ago. What's the story? Have we changed the diagnostic criteria, or are we just more savvy at looking for it and diagnosing it?
Well, I think it's a combination of the two. I would say 50 years ago, people thought about bipolar disorder. We didn't even use the term bipolar disorder. We referred to it as manic depressive illness, which is one way of describing the most severe of the bipolar disorders. So people received the diagnosis of manic depressive illness or bipolar disorder mostly when they had very severe mania, very severe periods of increased energy, thinking that they were capable of things that they weren't actually capable of, at a level that was psychotic. In other words, really detached from reality. We now understand that there are manias that don't come up to that level of psychotic thinking, but people still have bipolar disorder. We also, and we refer to that group of patients with the more severe, but not necessarily most severe form, as having bipolar 1 disorder. But we now also recognize what might be considered milder forms of mania that we call hypomania, that doesn't really increase energy, increased positivity, reduced need for sleep, often reduced need for food, but no impairment in functioning. If anything, people who have hypomania are hyperfunctional. But those people also experience often prolonged and severe periods of depression. We used to call those people just depressed. We didn't recognize the hypomanic side. So that's probably where a lot of the increased diagnosis is coming from people who have what we might call softer forms of bipolar disorder.
That's interesting because, as I think about it, I mean, my wife kids me sometimes, and I know we all know people that sometimes go on these roller coasters of like, I'm going to build the deck, change the roof, clear out the gutters, and sow the grass seed, all in one afternoon after church. And then when it doesn't happen, it's like, oh, I'm let down because I couldn't accomplish what I thought I think we all do that. A lot of people that are sort of busy people, active in their lives. So it's all, I guess, a matter of degrees. I mean, you're talking about hypomania, and then you're on the other end of the spectrum, you're talking about someone that finds themselves in an airport in New York, and they live here in Memphis, Missouri, and they don't know how they got there, but they think they're going to fly to meet the president of France. I mean,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. So the person who thinks he's going to fly to meet the president of France, is clearly impaired in his functioning because he has ended up somewhere where he never intended to be in the first place.
Okay.
The person who thinks he's going to accomplish all those tasks on Sunday afternoon after church, unless he's torn apart the entire deck and left it impossible to enter the house, really wouldn't be considered. And believe me, I've had patients who've done things like that.
Oh wow! Well, then there's a reprieve. That's good. I don't need your services. That's good.
But my point is that okay, you started the project, you were full of energy, you didn't finish it, but there's no real impairment in functioning there.
Yeah. So it's whether you're getting along in life and whether your interactions with others and with work are still functional.
Exactly.
Right.
But we think that probably people who have the classic manic depressive illness with the severe manias are about 1% of the population. Excuse me, there's probably another 2 to 3% who have what we call bipolar II disorder, that is, depressions alternating with these hypomanias. And then there may be another 1 or 2% who have even softer forms of the disorder, where the depressions are really mild, might not quite meet full criteria for a major depression, and the hypomanias are pretty mild, but they definitely have these alterations in mood and energy.
So it seems to me as though one of the hallmarks of this disorder is, in one sense, sort of disordered thinking in terms of judgment in one sense. And what I'm getting at here is, and I'm just asking you out of curiosity, it seems as though a lot of the patients I've encountered over the years that carry this diagnosis, and I know there's always seems to be a commingling of psychiatric diagnosis. Rarely does anyone have one.
Exactly.
I see a lot of bipolar in patients that also have substance abuse problems. Is that just because all psychiatric disorders are more correlated with substance abuse, or is this one a little more particularly correlated?
I don't have firm data in front of me, but I think that in general, yes, this is one of the psychiatric diagnoses that tends to go along with substance abuse more than others for a couple of reasons. Often patients with bipolar disorder will use substances to, in a sense, medicate their own condition. So that's one route to substance abuse.
Sure.
So when they feel depressed, they use drugs that pull them up, give them increased energy. When they feel too fired up, they use drugs to kind of calm themselves down. Another piece of this is that often there's a tremendous amount of anxiety that goes along with bipolar disorder. So some of the self-medication may be an attempt to control the anxiety. And I think often clinicians who treat patients with bipolar disorder miss the importance of the anxiety, and so that doesn't get treated professionally, and patients are seeking something that will help them with their anxiety.
We're talking with Dr. Ellen Frank, professor of psychiatry and psychology, and an all-around, as you can tell, warm person, as well as being extremely knowledgeable about this stuff. She was chair of the Food and Drug Administration's Psychopharmacologic Drugs Advisory Panel. It's an extremely important position, and of course is just a fountain of knowledge. So if you have a question for her, please give us a buzz. And Dr. Frank, we do have a caller on line 3. Let's take that call. Go ahead, caller. You're on with Dr. Ellen Frank.
Okay, my question is, what is schizoaffective bipolarness?
That's a wonderful question.
Thank you, caller.
We include in the Manual of Mental Disorders a diagnosis that, as you correctly point out, is called schizoaffective disorder or schizoaffective bipolar disorder. And these are patients who receive that diagnosis are individuals who have a disorder that kind of sits in the gray zone between schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. These are individuals who, even when they don't have any mood symptoms, that is, they're not depressed and they're not manic, they still have distortions in their thinking. So an example might be someone who's no longer depressed, no longer manic in any sense, but still believes that the neighbors are spying on him, or still believes that the anchor on the television is actually sending him a special message for how to conduct his life. Or a woman who believes that the billboards, as she drives to work, have special messages for her. That kind of disordered thinking. And so when that disordered thinking continues in between episodes of depression and mania, we consider that to be a schizoaffective disorder.
Okay, so it sounds like sort of a hybrid with components of schizophrenia and bipolar.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
If you can spend another segment with us, we've just scratched the surface, Dr. Frank, and we've talked about what bipolar is. We've talked about how prevalent it is, and it's, basically one form or another, very severe or very mild.
Yes.
We're talking about 1 in 20 people. That means the
Something like that.
next
Probably
time you're at the
true.
theater here in town, there's probably 5 or 6 people in the theater who have this problem.
Wow.
And so it touches all of us in ways that maybe we may not know, and but there's hope. And Dr. Frank, of course, is an expert in figuring out how in the world to help people cope with it. And we'd like to talk a little bit about what your research and what research is telling us about the cause of it and the brain chemistry mix-up, as well as some treatments. And I know you have developed a treatment paradigm as well, and we're going to learn about that. Interpersonal and social rhythm therapy. Now, I'm a musician, and I'm liking that talk about rhythm, but I don't think that's what you had in mind. We'll talk about that more.
Well, maybe yes, maybe no.
We'll find out. You'll have to stay tuned to hear what social rhythm therapy is from Dr. Ellen Frank. And you have to know, folks, she's an honorary fellow of the American Psychiatric Association. It's a very prestigious position as well. And we're very thrilled and privileged to have her with us. Stay right there for more on Healthy You. We're talking about bipolar disorder. We'll be right back.
Community Bank of Memphis can help put the vehicle of your dreams in your driveway. Get that car, truck, van, or SUV you've always wanted with an auto loan from your hometown bank. We offer competitive rates and fast, friendly hometown service. Before you go shopping for your next new or used vehicle, give us a call at 465-8501. Hometown banking with your neighbors and friends at Community Bank of Memphis. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
The motto of the Missouri State Highway Patrol is service and protection. Our hotline numbers help the public notify us of an emergency, the presence of marijuana or methamphetamine, or allow us to support victims who need it. Call 1-800-BAD-WEED to report the presence of marijuana. Call 1-888-823-METH to report methamphetamine. To report an emergency on the road, call 1-800-525-5555 or star 55 on your cellular phone. If you've been the victim of a drunk driver, call 1-888-773-1800. Call us. We're there for you. A message from Sergeant Brent Bernhardt of the Missouri State Highway Patrol and KMEM.
A message from A-plus scholarship students across Missouri.
The Missouri Lottery has raised more than $4 billion.
More than $4 billion for schools, students, and educational opportunities.
Like the A-plus scholarship program that paid for 2 years of my college education.
2 years of my tuition.
I got an education because of you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making my future brighter.
Thank you for making me and my parents very, very happy.
Thank you for playing, and keep it up.
Because when you play the Missouri Lottery,
you play it forward.
Thanks to Missouri Lottery players like you, the A-plus scholarship program has helped thousands of Missouri students and their families pay for 2 years of higher education. Every ticket is a win for education, so play it forward with the Missouri Lottery. For more information, visit molottery.com.
America's Best Country. It's John Denver.
Country roads take me home to the place I belong.
America's Best Country is Pam Tillis. America's Best Country is the Statler Brothers.
Counting flowers on the wall, that don't bother me at all. Playing solitaire till dawn with the deck of 51.
America's Best Country is Kenny Rogers.
You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your...
America's Best Country, 100.5 KMEM.
A foggy day in London town had me low, had me down. I viewed the morning with such alarm. The old British Museum had lost its charm. How long, I wonder.
Welcome back to the program, and that's a little musical rhythm therapy, because the studio staff here will tell you when that's going on, it's all over the place. I am just moving and grooving, and no matter how bad the day is, Michael Bublé brings me up. And but I don't think that's what our guest, Dr. Ellen Frank, has in mind when she talks about social rhythm therapy. But we're going to find out as we learn about the treatment and the cause of bipolar. Dr. Frank, what is bipolar caused by? I mean, is it something in the air, the water? Is it our genetics? All of the above? What's the story?
Well, the answer is we really don't know. There is substantial evidence for genetic transmission of bipolar disorder. That is, bipolar disorder is much, much more common in the first-degree relatives of individuals who have bipolar disorder than it is in the general population. But the specific genes that are quote, causes, unquote, of bipolar disorder have not really been identified. Our work on interpersonal and social rhythm therapy has focused more on the causes of episodes than on the causes of the disorder itself. We took the position, supported by a lot of evidence, that individuals who have bipolar disorder have what you might think of as exquisitely sensitive body clocks. One of the ways we explain this to patients is that unlike the average person, your clock can't be knocked around. You may be old enough to remember that old John Cameron Swayze commercial when he would take an elevator up to the top of the Empire State Building and drop a Timex down onto the ground, and he'd take the elevator down and run out, and he'd say, "Oh, it's still ticking."
Yeah. I saw it on some YouTube things.
Okay, well, I'm obviously
no, I remember. I'm just kidding you. I'm just kidding you. I remember.
But what we tell our patients with bipolar disorder is the rest of the world are Timexes. You are a Cartier. And you don't take a Cartier watch and throw it off the top of the Empire State Building. Okay. So what that means is that you need to take exquisite care of your body's clock, because any little disturbance to your clock can be the thing that sets off an episode of mania or sets off an episode of depression. So just like people who have diabetes need to alter their diets, people who have asthma need to alter their home environment, you need to alter your schedule so that you are extremely regular in your wake times, your meal times, your activity times, your rest times, your bedtime. And being extremely regular in those activities, the social rhythms of life, will help to protect you against new episodes of mania and depression. And we've developed a treatment that really focuses on training individuals how to be more regular in their lives. It's not easy. We tend to have one rhythm on weekdays and a completely different rhythm on the weekends. We tend to let our rhythms be kind of batted about by events around us. And particularly individuals who have bipolar disorder like the idea of spontaneity. They don't like the idea. When we first present this to patients, they say, but you're going to take all the spontaneity out of my life. And what we say is you can be as spontaneous as you want as long as you get up at the same time each day, go to bed at the same time each day, eat your meals at more or less the same time each day. And part of the secret of helping patients to accept this seemingly odious regime is that they very soon find that they feel much better when they do. So there is something about having a very regular routine that seems to help them to settle down in terms of symptoms of mania or depression. And what a therapist does using interpersonal and social rhythm therapy is to consistently point out to patients as they record each week what their social rhythm times were. Oh, this was a week in which you were extremely regular. Tell me how your mood was this week. Much better than last week. Wonder why that was. Or the opposite. Let's look at last week. My gosh, you got up 3 hours later on Saturday and 4 hours later on Sunday. And how did you feel on Monday? Awful. Well, what do you think that might have been? Because, what do you think might have caused that? So the treatment has been shown in a couple of studies to be effective in treating patients with bipolar depression. In addition to medication, this is not a treatment that we use for individuals with bipolar I disorder without medication. We use it in combination with medication. And it's been found to help them recover from bipolar depression more quickly, and it's been found to prevent new episodes of both mania and depression.
Now, Dr. Frank, we have a question. When primarily are you and your colleagues seeing this disorder start? Is it in childhood, adolescence, adulthood? And are you seeing it more, starting more in childhood? What impact does this have that you're seeing in childhood? But primarily, when are you seeing it start?
Okay, the classic onset time. Let me back up a second. The most common time to receive a first diagnosis of bipolar disorder is in the early 20s, because that's when the first mania usually appears. But what we find is that most individuals who have a first mania in their early 20s had a first depression in their late adolescence, so 15, 16, 17. But the diagnosis of bipolar disorder can only be made once someone's had that first mania. We're not very good at figuring out, when looking at two 16-year-olds who both have depression, which one of them is going to go on to have a course of bipolar disorder and which one is just going to have plain old depressions, except if one of them has a parent or a sibling with bipolar disorder. That's going to make us think more that this might be the start of bipolar disorder. We do see some mania in children. It's relatively rare. It's more difficult to diagnose. Kids who have bipolar disorder don't have the same kind of clearly defined episodes that we see as individuals move into their early adulthood, but are more likely to have a few days of depression and then a few days of mania. So making the diagnosis of bipolar disorder in children more difficult. But we do very much believe that it can occur in children. And when you see the real thing in children, real mania, it's very obvious, and it's very different from ordinary child behavior. It's very different from irritable child behavior. It's really marked by these incredible increases in energy and this I can do anything in the world kind of attitude. Often also marked by a kind of giddy silliness. And kids, of course, little kids are often giddy and silly, but this is kind of a constant giddy silliness that is not characteristic of the child in the past and not characteristic of other children of that age.
Let's before we let you go here, I wanted to talk a little bit about drug therapy, because obviously, you were involved in the regulatory game there. And you mentioned that it really is sort of a 1-2 punch. It's both talk therapy and psychotherapy and medicine in concert. There was a study came out a year or so ago that really threw, I think, it was all over the medical news wires and even the national, just regular nightly news about the seemingly less effectiveness of some of the standard agents like Prozac and Zoloft and those agents that people get for depression. When the studies were analyzed, they were saying, well, these things aren't that much better than placebo. Are those the kind of agents that are used for bipolar, or as I'm seeing, is it more things that are really not necessarily approved for that indication, but they're used anyway?
Okay, well, the standard treatment, the classic treatment for bipolar disorder is lithium, chemically lithium carbonate, first discovered by an Australian physician in the 50s or 60s and first introduced in the United States in the early 70s. And when it was first introduced, especially for those classic psychotic manic depressive cases, it was really seen as a miracle treatment. It is now a generic compound, so it doesn't have a big sales force out there marketing it. But here at the University of Pittsburgh, we still believe it is the fundamental treatment for bipolar disorder and the most helpful treatment that we have. It's very good for treating mania, and it's very good for protecting patients against new episodes of mania. It doesn't do such a great job for the treatment of bipolar depression. Okay. So often when patients experience a depression, we need to add something to the lithium, and that might be one of the standard antidepressants, or it might be one of the antidepressants that aren't used so much for conventional depression. We still like to use here a very old class of antidepressant called the monoamine oxidase inhibitors, MAOIs, which don't work very well for unipolar depression, but seem to be very effective for patients who have bipolar depressions. More recently, a class of drugs known as the second-generation antipsychotics or the atypical antipsychotics have been used to treat bipolar disorder. And there's some evidence that some of them are also effective against bipolar depression. I think that's...
Is there anything new on the horizon? Are there any new therapies? Are there I hear about people being treated for depression with, electrical things in their ear and, all kinds of interesting stuff.
So I guess I forgot to mention that the single most effective treatment for bipolar disorder for severe depression or for mania is still electroconvulsive therapy, ECT. But as you well know, giving ECT is a non-trivial exercise. Right. It needs to be done in a hospital, usually with overnight stays, although some centers do outpatient ECT. The problem with ECT is that it the effects rarely continue beyond the end of the treatment. So you're always then looking for something. Okay, you've gotten the patient out of the episode of depression or out of the episode of mania. Now what are you going to do in terms of medication therapy?
Mhm.
But there are also a whole bunch of new treatments that are that have direct effects on the brain or on nerves that lead to the brain, that are being used for what we call treatment-resistant depression, that is, depressions that have been hard to treat. There's been less exploration of those treatments like vagal nerve stimulation, transcranial magnetic stimulation. There's been less work on those treatments for bipolar disorder. They've mostly been applied to what we call unipolar depression, that is, depressions that occur without manias, and only in the case of people who have not responded to standard medication treatment.
Doctor, I was wondering, where can people go for more information about bipolar disorder? And do you guys, do you have a website there that you would like to for people to see?
We do have a website that is, well, hello? Did I lose you?
No, we're good.
We're here.
We're good.
Okay. Depressionprevention.org.
Okay.
But I would strongly, our website is not well populated. It's not something I'm ashamed to say we've spent a lot of time maintaining. So good information, best information comes from the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, and their website is going to be www.dbsalliance.org, and that website is a fountain of information about bipolar disorder. In terms of full disclosure, I should mention that I'm on the board of directors of the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, but they really do have a terrific website. There are also materials that you can order from their website if you like printed material. And the National Institute of Mental Health has excellent materials that can be ordered from their website. If you go, I believe it's just NIMH.nih.gov.
Okay.
But if you go to any of the search engines and type in NIMH, it'll take you to their website. And the NIMH has excellent online and print materials about bipolar disorder.
Well, Dr. Ellen Frank, you have really, really helped us explore a really complex, difficult, and sometimes disabling topic, as you've discussed. I have one final question for you.
Sure.
Wondering if you're going to be in Denver tomorrow. And the reason I asked is because I understand there's a couple of guys there that think they're going to solve a $15 trillion deficit, make 10 million jobs happen, and save the world and put the world in peace. What do you think? You think
I'm not going to be in Denver until Friday.
They need you in Denver.
I'm just saying. I don't know.
No, well, let me just say this about that. I think you have to have a little whiff.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about diagnosable disorder.
No.
But I think you have to have a little whiff of hypomania to be a world leader. And many of our world leaders, many of our most famous presidents, prime ministers, you name it, actually had diagnosable bipolar disorder.
Wow. Yeah. And probably business leaders too. I mean, you think about the people that change the world. My goodness, I mean, it takes incredible amounts of energy, incredible amounts of you think you can change the world, and you do. So yeah, you're right. Maybe it's like a lot of things. I was telling my resident who's studying with me this month. I think we in the medical profession, Dr. Frank has 400 publications. Well, maybe there's a little hypomania, but you bet there's some OCD there as well, right? I mean, so who knows? I mean, the distinction between, I think the big take-home message for folks and you said it earlier, is it impairing your ability to function
Yes.
with other?
Exactly.
That's the big question to
Exactly.
ask. So
Exactly.
if it's tamed, it may be a good thing. All right.
I think that's absolutely right. And I'd make one final closing comment, and that is what you said. It takes incredible energy to run for or hold an important elective office. We talk about depression and bipolar disorder as mood disorders, but really what's so remarkable to me in seeing patients with these disorders for the last 30 years is that the extent to which they are also disorders of energy.
Yeah.
And it's the energy component that I think is most debilitating when it goes away and most wonderful when it comes back.
You're right. Hey, well said, and that wraps up and puts a bow on a fabulous show. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Ellen Frank, and we'd like to talk to you again in the future, maybe about some other mental health disorders.
Absolutely.
And if anything comes up new in the bipolar world, please let us know, okay?
Will do.
All right. Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, interesting talk, an interesting topic. We'll step aside here for a little bit, and then we'll come back and wrap it up. Just a couple minutes left. Numbers are 465-7225.
And 1-800-748-7875. I'm going to go work on my Sunday afternoon honey-do list.
Each time I find myself flat on my face, I pick myself up and get back.
At Burr's Hybrids, our agronomists don't wear tasseled loafers or arrange for coffee service. Nope, they're toes in the rows with you to field questions so you don't question your field. Insects, disease, weather, Burr's agronomists help make the most of your acres and ensure profitability. Independent Burr's Hybrids has the latest trait technology and as much access to germplasm as anybody. The choice is simple. 877-4-BUR-RUS.
With today's hay prices reaching record levels, make good use of your hay. To help you do that, MFA has a great price on Applegate bale feeders with optional feed savers to make hay feeding up to 20% more efficient. Hurry, offer ends October 13th.
No matter what I'm doing, feeding cows or baling hay, I get all my farming needs from MFA.
No other name in corn offers the strength, history, and industry-leading genetics like DeKalb. From roots to stalks to yields, DeKalb brings 100 years of innovation and performance to corn. That's why farmers choose DeKalb Genuity VT Double Pro Rib Complete Corn Blend products. Two powerful modes of action help protect against damage from above-ground ear-feeding pests like corn earworm and fall armyworm. That exceptional protection comes in a truly simple and convenient single-bag refuge solution. No need to plant a separate structured refuge in the corn-growing area. Find the best DeKalb Genuity VT Double Pro Rib Complete product for you by talking to your local DeKalb dealer and visiting DeKalb.com/AgSeedSelect. Strong breeding, strong protection, strong yields. That's DeKalb. Always follow IRM grain marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions. Genuity Rib Complete products do not require the planting of a structured refuge except in the cotton growing area where corn earworm is a significant pest.
Well, boy, the time flew by, and it was real fun to talk with such an expert. And you can feel the passion, hear the passion in her voice, and boy, that's, I can tell you that when that problem takes off and goes just goes off the roof, it really disables people.
Yeah.
And they make bad decisions. They sign contracts they shouldn't. They do things they shouldn't.
They are not functional.
So it's a real problem.
Yeah.
Hey, that wraps it up, Bud. Thanks for another good show. And Elisa, thank you. Bud, we have a book fair this Thursday,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Time?
At from 7 to 4.
7 to 4.
Yeah.
And that's in the new conference
That's in
and
the new
library
conference
center. Right?
library, yeah.
Great. And remember, if you'd like to get the e-newsletter.
Yep. You can just give us a call at the hospital and we'll put you on the list.
Okay.
Make sure you get it every month automatically.
Yeah, the e-newsletter's cool. And that'll keep you up to date with what's
Yeah.
going on at Scotland County Hospital. For all the gang here, hope you enjoyed the show. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week. Remember, this week, be well. Share it with someone you love. Give them a big hug. We'll see you next time.
But you don't know it's true, 'cause you can see it when I look at you. And in this crazy life, and
You're listening to the best in area news, weather, and sports on America's Best Country, 100.5 KMEM Memphis, Missouri.